New York's Court of Appeals, highest court in the state, rejected Donald Trump's bid to stop sentencing in the hush money business fraud case.
The president-elect's seemingly final option is the U.S. Supreme Court, which his lawyers have already asked to block the Friday New York sentencing. Trump has denied wrongdoing. His lawyers argued that as president-elect, and though not yet in office, he has presidential immunity. Prosecutors say a president-elect has no Article II functions under the Constitution.
ABC's Chuck Sievertson. As U.S.-led Gaza ceasefire negotiations continue to produce nothing, Israeli special forces recovered the bodies of 2 Israelis taken captive by Hamas in the sneak attack over a year ago.
The Israeli army has found the body of 53-year-old hostage Yosef al-Zadani and the suspected remains of his son Hamza in an underground tunnel in southern Gaza. The discovery highlighting once again the dangers facing the 94 hostages now left in Gaza. The hostages include 7 Americans. Jordana Miller, ABC News, Jerusalem.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul says she'll push for new laws to make it harder for hedge funds to purchase large numbers of single-family homes in the state. There's concern big investors are buying up those homes, shrinking the housing supply for individual buyers and families, one of multiple factors in the scarcity of housing nationwide. I'm Richard Kantsu, ABC News.
My doctor told me my cholesterol is borderline, so I took control with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula. Garlic helps maintain healthy cholesterol safely and naturally. It's odor and taste-free, and Garlic is a world leader in garlic potency. I'm taking charge of my cholesterol with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula, cholesterol's natural enemy.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. The term natural references only the garlic in the product. Use as directed.
AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
With your KVNU News update on this Thursday afternoon, I'm Will Feelright. Well, the mother of a female student at Utah State said that her daughter had a surprise when she returned to her dorm after Christmas break and found a transgender resident assistant had been assigned to her apartment. The living arrangements, according to Cheryl Zutzman, were that 2 women, including her daughter, were in one bedroom, 2 women in another, and the RA in the third bedroom, with all of them sharing one bathroom. Now, Salzman expressed her concerns about the situation. The RA's pronouns are she and her, according to a student who knows the RA, and the student did not acknowledge whether the RA was actually transgender. Now, the allegations have attracted the attention of Utah House Speaker Mike Schultz. He said that they will not tolerate this any longer, explaining that in this year's legislative session, legislators will be making it clear that female spaces are for biological females only. Schultz said that no woman should ever feel compelled to relocate to feel safe or comfortable on a college campus. Now, Salzman said that her daughter was uncomfortable in the suite setting and moved to another on-campus housing unit. Now, the RA reportedly still has a job, according to Amanda Dorito, who is USU Associate Vice President for Strategic Communications. Dorito, though, citing student privacy, would not say where the RA is living and declined discussing specific surrounding Saltzman's concerns. Well, one person was killed after being hit by a car on Interstate 15 last night. I'll have that story next as we check your weather forecast. It's been in the mid-30s today. Tonight, though, a cold one, as we'll see clear skies overnight, temperatures dropping down to around 10 degrees. Tomorrow, increasing clouds, as we'll see high temperatures in the low 30s, and a chance of snow beginning Friday night, continuing into Saturday, tapering off by Saturday afternoon. And looks like clouds and sunshine expected for Sunday and into Monday, as temperatures will get back up to around 30 degrees. Well, one person was killed after being hit by a car while trying to repair a vehicle along the side of I-15 in Brigham City last night. Utah Highway Patrol Lieutenant Cameron Roden said that a car had broke down and was parked partially in the lane of 1100 South, merging onto I-15. The driver of the broken-down car was outside of their vehicle, which troopers said may have had its lights off. Roden said another vehicle sideswiped the disabled car, hitting the driver. Life-saving measures were attempted on the person hit, but they died at the scene. And a man with a violent past was arrested on Wednesday in connection with a brutal assault that happened back in October when police say a man walking to work was stabbed, sexually assaulted, and set on fire. Robert Rains, a 52-year-old, is being held without bail for an investigation into an attempted murder and other assaults. Now, back on October 1st, around midnight, a man was walking to his job at a fast food restaurant when he reportedly was attacked by an unknown assailant who threw him to the ground, put a chokehold around him, sexually assaulted him, and tried to set him on fire. Now, the man sustained minor injuries, and on New Year's Eve, Draper City Police say they made contact with a man who had a strong resemblance to that suspect and took him into custody. Get more on these and other stories at CashValleyDaily.com. I'm Will Feelwright with your KVNU News Update.
Nestled in the heart of breathtaking landscape, Maple Creek Ranch on the north end of Cache Valley is more than just land. It's where your story begins. It's the perfect location for building your dream home. But only a few lots remain, so act now to claim your piece of paradise. Imagine mornings with breathtaking views, evenings by the fire, and every moment surrounded by the peaceful charm of nature with stunning views, babbling brooks, and miles of wilderness. Google Maple Creek Ranch to learn more about these final few lots.
The newsmakers, the stories. Get it all here. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
It's the biggest travel show of the year, the Morris Columbus Travel Expo, with over 100 travel vendors, airlines, cruise lines, resorts, and tour companies, including Royal Caribbean. Join us for exclusive discounts, information seminars, and hourly prize drawings. Friday and Saturday, January 24th and 25th at the Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy. Tickets at utahtravelexpo.com.
Morris Columbus. Right by your side.
Women can have it all, including heart attacks. But symptoms like jaw pain, nausea, unusual fatigue, dizziness, and backache are often different and more subtle than for a man. The fact is, heart disease is the #1 killer of women. Know the signs. Learn more at getheartchecked.org. From Women's Heart Alliance, in partnership with Women Heart.
How was your drive to school?
Let me tell you, I had to get my iced coffee first. I just can't seem to put it down. My favorite rapper just announced a tour. My phone was buzzing like crazy. I'm so excited. I had to text all my friends right then to talk about it. Then, someone started calling me and...
Let's try that again.
I turned my phone off right away. I never drive distracted.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Chicago, Chicago, that toddling town. Chicago, Chicago, I will show you around.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Hour 2 of today's show, Thursday, January 9th. Listeners are reminding me that in hour 1, for some reason, it's been a week. I said July 9th. It's January 9th. Don't be confused. And welcome back to the show. Joining us here in the studio to kick off hour 2, we have a very special guest. Once a month, we get a chance to sit down and catch up with, which you really have to do because she's got to be one of the busiest people in Cache Valley. The Cache Chamber CEO and President in the studio with us now, Jamie Andrus. And Jamie, appreciate you taking some time for us. I have to start off because this is now the third day I've forgotten it, and I know guests are noticing it, but so I smashed a fingernail a little while ago, and it turned black, and it's ugly. And a niece of mine said she'd gotten for Christmas a makeup kit. She's like 8. And she said, I have a color that looks like real fingernails. Can I paint it? And she had been painting her dad's bright orange. And I said, sure, what the heck? I can just take it off when I get home. 3 days now, I have forgotten to take it off. So I have this shiny, kind of pink nail. And it's, oh, sorry, I forgot to turn your mic on. It's peeling off so you can now see the black underneath it. So every guest I've had in the studio this week, I've had to explain. I just keep forgetting to take it off. But I hope my niece isn't listening. She'll be offended.
It looks great, Jason. I like it. It matches mine.
I'm sorry. I also realize I keep saying niece, and it wouldn't be niece. But you get it. A younger family member. I'm having a week. All of you at the Cash Chamber are about to have a couple of weeks. You have a lot of plans for this upcoming legislative session.
We do. We're gearing up for the legislative session, and then right after it gets started, we're heading to Arizona on a week-long recruiting trip to bring the summer citizens to Cache Valley in the summer.
Good.
So we have a lot going on.
Summer citizens, there's a lot in question this summer with some changes to some of the typical things we see. And summer citizens are a huge part of our economy. So I'm happy to see the chamber, saying, okay, we're going to go do some kind of recruiting, basically. Hey, you should come north.
Well, we actually spend a week and we do, we call it a road show because we actually go from development to development, senior community all around the area, and we talk to them. And most of the people that we meet with, which are 50 people at a spot, most of them have never been to Cache Valley. So we're really excited.
So these are brand new summer citizens you're talking with.
Yeah, okay. That group turns over.
Yeah, sure. That is, so the chamber will be headed south as part of this. I like that you're calling it a road show because it is kind of a show to go. For listeners who aren't able to envision this, you're talking about Chamber of Commerce representatives going down and basically showing off Cache Valley and everything there is to do here in the summertime.
And we're excited for them to come, and I will assure you, we are filling their calendars up. We're going to have plenty for them to do. But let's go back to legislative affairs. Sorry, I got you sidetracked.
No, it's okay.
There.
There's so much to talk about. We could kind of go anywhere with this, but it really, the legislative session is going to be, there's so much. There's water, there's housing. They're talking tax cuts again, but maybe not. They are, when it comes to the business world, they're always looking at ways to develop more, to get more businesses here, to support businesses any way they can. That's a lot of moving pieces, basically. And so
it is. And I want to talk to you a little bit about, we do some things a little bit differently. We come together, our chamber and all the chambers north of Salt Lake, and we have a coalition. It's called the Northern Utah Chamber Coalition, and we get together and we set some priorities and a couple of things that are different that I think the public doesn't really hear about are we have capital projects and roads and transportation projects, and so that becomes a part of what we're doing because that is the basis for growth.
Makes sense.
Not necessarily legislation, but every year the legislators have to choose how to spend our tax dollars.
Sure.
So we get together, we prioritize, we come together as a coalition, and we actually take turns promoting, supporting, and backing each of our chamber's projects.
Okay.
So, for instance, this
a very
year,
cool idea.
It's very cool. And what it does is it gives us a united, larger voice because we bring together all the legislators from north of Salt Lake together. And if they all vote together with one voice, then Northern Utah becomes as powerful as Salt Lake or Utah County.
Which is important because if that didn't happen...
No, we'd have one vote for Cashin and Rich with one senator, or, and it could be different than the one senator in Box Elder. And, so if we all come together and we work together, that's one of the things we do with our legislative affairs committee.
That is, and also I think it's worth pointing out too that though Tremont and Logan and Woodruff all have cities have very different immediate issues they're dealing with. There's a lot of common ground when it comes to when you're talking about the legislature and what they're going to invest taxpayer dollars in. We separate all these things in our mind when it comes to public policy. We don't think of road spending, for example, from the legislature as a business thing, but you can't get to businesses without roads.
Correct.
Employees can't go to work without roads. Right. And so it's important to have the business voice down there saying, hey, up here in Cache Valley or up here in Box Elder, because one of the issues that Rich County, Cache County, and Box Elder County are all in agreement on is growth.
Correct.
I mean, there are a lot of people that are going to be here in the next 10, 20 years.
Yes.
And the legislature traditionally has kind of forgotten we're here. Not intentionally, I don't think, but the demands of Salt Lake and Utah County.
That's correct.
Correct.
But I do want to point out that our Northern Utah legislators, we have more of the leadership of the legislature in Northern Utah.
I want to know what Chris Wilson's doing to get in. So the Senate president loves Senator Chris Wilson,
and he loves the Northern Utah Chamber Coalition.
Okay,
we've already met with all of our Northern Utah legislators,
nice.
And President Adams just praised us for our collaboration and our working together and how that makes their job so much easier, because we come to them and we say, hey, we've already agreed. We've already agreed on this, and this are our 3 top priorities in this category. So now you know how we feel, and now you know that we're all backing.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah. For instance, the Bridgerland Technical College Health Sciences Building was a project that was on our priority list. And during that time that it was a priority, the other tech colleges in Northern Utah gave their support to us, to Bridgerland.
Okay.
You get it? So then we go to them, they get the funding. Then the next year, once it's funded, then we move to the next project, and it could be the Davis Tech or the Ogden Weber Tech.
Interesting.
And so we move these projects up, and we work together. So this is something that's a little hard to explain. It's a little hard to understand, but it's one of the most effective things that we do as chambers of commerce.
That makes sense. That is, honestly, you think about, back to the idea of all these moving pieces, all these spinning plates. You could go through with a joining together with an outsized voice. And someone told me once, it was a staffer. I was pitching an idea for a transparency bill, and I didn't mean to, but I showed up prepared. And a staffer told me that is the best way to get anything done with the legislature is if you're pitching an idea, if you're seeking to influence the budget, if you're seeking to influence legislation, show up prepared. And so here you have this conglomerate of representatives of the business world who can get together beforehand and iron out the kinks, share ideas. Mm-hmm. And then you go down and, for lack of a better word, basically make the pitch, right?
Right.
That's amazing.
And then we meet with them ahead of the session. We met with them all in December. And we gave them a preview, and then every single week during the session, we get in front of them on Wednesday mornings, and we do another little pitch. We bring, they tell us what they're working on, and then we do a little bit of, here's this priority, remember we've got this coming up. This is a project that's supported by our chambers, all of us.
Sure.
This year we've got Little Lambs. They've been working on getting some legislation for a new building, some funding.
Yeah.
Not legislation, but funding from the legislature for a new facility to house the many, many donated products, diapers mostly, that they give away to people in need. It's one of the greatest things, and they serve all of Northern Utah.
Yeah,
but it happens to be right here in our backyard. And all of the chambers are supporting it, and it's right up at the top of our list. So this year,
cool.
they're probably going to get the funding that they need.
That's nice.
And
Because
so,
what they do is amazing.
isn't it great? And
the space they have is not enough.
and it helps us, and it helps our nonprofits. It helps our economy. It helps our businesses.
Yeah.
It helps our workforce in the most critical way. You think of a young family that works together, and they both work, and they run out of diapers,
Yeah.
and they can't take their child to daycare. They got to.
They're going to skip work.
You see what
They
I
have
mean?
No choice.
And so it really does come right back to our workforce. So many things that we do evolves around where we live and where we work.
That is,
and how we take care of each other.
and I love this recognition. You know, months and months ago, we had a representative of Voices for Utah Children on. This is basically a think tank for those not familiar, but they focus on legislation and issues that have to do with families and kids. And we were talking, and they brought chambers of commerce up specifically on that front, because one of the big projects they're working on is getting the legislature to kind of pay more attention to access to childcare in Utah.
Yes.
And they brought some data, which they said that chambers had helpfully provided, and it basically showed that, you know, without these types of things, you're talking a lot of lost productivity for businesses, and sometimes lost jobs.
Right.
Which costs businesses money, because now they've got to train someone new.
Especially in our valley.
Sure.
In Cache and even northern Utah, where our workforce and our unemployment is so low, it's tight.
Sure.
And so it's a real problem for our businesses and our employers. Yeah.
That's, but again, brings us back to how important it is that the chamber's doing this, going down and being a voice for this. The legislature, I don't think, ever intends to let anything go or to neglect a certain issue or challenge, but there's so much going on, and they can only focus on so much. So it's helpful, I would assume, for them to have groups like this a collection of chamber representatives come and say, here's where we're at.
Yes, exactly. You're exactly right.
That is very cool.
They are very appreciative to it. This year, we're working on a bill tracker where they can see all of the bills, and then each of our opinions, whether we are supporting or not supporting, and what our comments are. We're working on getting that collectively. We meet as our own legislative affairs committee every single week. And
Smart.
On Tuesdays, we look at what's going on, what's affecting our legislators and our legislation in our valley. But then we work with the bigger group the very next day for northern Utah. It's a busy time, but it is incredibly. It's fascinating, and you feel like we're really getting some things done.
This is and good for Cache Valley too.
It's very good,
and the other counties involved as well, because again, not intentionally, but the legislative energy, the money, the time to discuss legislation or influence legislation would all go to Salt Lake County, Utah County, some of the Wasatch Front, because that's where most people live, and so you have to have these voices. This is just one of many things that the chamber gets up to. And you can check in with them in a bunch of different ways. They have a newsletter, but you can also just best place to start, really, is the Cache Chamber of Commerce website, which is cachechamber.com. You can see the full calendar there. And Jamie, before we're out of time with you here today, speaking of the calendar, I wanted to talk about this because you'd mentioned before how this had come about, and that's such a cool story in and of itself. But the Thrive series is underway and getting a lot of buzz from people I've talked to who have attended some of the events that have already happened. This is focused on women in business, basically.
And it's a series, and we are so lucky because our current president of our Women in Business chapter here under our chamber happens to be the leader of the Utah Women's Business Center of Utah. she has put together this series of guests that are coming, and they're the who's who of Utah.
It's pretty impressive, honestly.
And we had our first meeting on Wednesday. The room was packed. We have more than we expected women who have signed up for the entire year, which also includes our women's conference in October. It was a screaming success. It's not too late to sign up or come at any. You can come individually.
Sure.
But the series will actually build upon itself. And so each time you come, you're going to get, the basics, and the next speaker's going to build on that with the topics. And by the end of the year, you're really going to be able to thrive in your career and really succeed and help your business succeed and help your organization.
So cool.
It's really fabulous.
This is, and you get to hear from people in this Thrive series with backgrounds in the credit union world. City Creek Center, representative of City Creek, speaking about, because that is a business hub right now in a huge county. The Utah Association of CPAs, and the big one too, I think that most business owners are not going to want to miss. The Regents Blue Cross Blue Shield representative, Dr. Donna Milovets. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Milovets?
Milovich, I think, maybe.
That is.
She's fantastic. We've already had her here to speak. We had Sarah
That was
Jones.
The one everyone was talking about.
Crystal Magalette, who happens to be the CEO of Flying J. Maverick,
wow.
Now Maverick, sorry.
Yeah.
The corporate leader there and an
That's
alum
huge.
of USU. We're very excited. Really, really great series. Just fantastic. You don't want to miss it.
That is pretty impressive. This happens all year long. As Jamie said, it's a series, so you kind of want to catch the whole thing, but it's not too late. The package is cheaper than individual cost if you're going to hit every time. If you're not a chamber member, don't worry. It's only $25 more expensive for the package if you're not a chamber member. But as a chamber member, you get not just $25 off the Thrive series, but a lot of other benefits, including, as we've discussed, access to these legislative influence sessions and meetings where you can supply feedback to the crew who will then go supply feedback to the lawmakers. So a lot of reasons to be a member of the Cache Chamber of Commerce. And we should mention this as well, the calendar. I joke about this every time, Jamie, but if you want to keep up, cachechamber.com, the calendar always has something on it. Every single month, there is something going on to be engaged in the business world. But I think the biggest benefit the chamber offers business owners, small or large, is networking, connecting in this way. Yep. So I appreciate you taking some time to come and talk to us about this, because I know a lot of business owners out there are sitting there thinking, what do I do next? Well, that's what you're here for, right? The chamber.
We will help you solve your problems.
So many resources and tools, most free actually, available through cachechamber.com. And again, our guest has been Chamber CEO and President Jamie Andrus. And Jamie, again, thank you for your time. To our listeners, thank you for your time as well. Stick around. More of KVNU's For the People to come after this look at the news with KVNU's Bill Wall. Habit will feel right.
Well, thank you, Jason. A Logan man had no idea his ambulance ride wouldn't be covered by his military health insurance. However, he learned that he wasn't alone as Simran Norgebauer found out why.
If my knee was to lock up again, I would probably call some friends to take me to the emergency room.
That's retired Air Force veteran Eddie Fairs, who learned a hard lesson when he got an ambulance ride in late 2023. He now has a word of caution for any veterans on TRICARE insurance.
They're going to get stuck with an ambulance bill because the city won't take care of some paperwork.
After 8 months of fighting with the billing department, he decided to directly contact Logan Fire.
He said, your bill's going to be taken care of. And that the TRICARE credentialing's been done.
But the bills kept coming and claims were still denied. Logan Fire Assistant Chief Rod Tompkinson says the credentialing process was complicated by a number of factors. Eddie still has no confirmation the balance has cleared, and he's concerned for others.
Maybe we'll go to a city council meeting to, ask the mayor what's going to be done about this.
TRICARE confirms Logan Fire is still not covered, but says veterans can always make a claim for reimbursement. Reporting in Logan for KVNU, I'm Cimarron Neugebauer.
Thank you, Cimarron. Logan Fire, by the way, is not the only EMS considered out of network in northern Utah. Cache Valley Daily confirmed with TRICARE that there are only 3 EMS services that are approved along the Wasatch Front. Those are Lifelight, South Weber City, and Park City Ambulance. Well, one Cache Valley resident got an up-close and personal view of former President Jimmy Carter lying in state at the U.S. Capitol. A 2023 Ridgeline High School graduate who lived in Providence, Austin C. Monaco, was selected as one of the honor guards at former President Carter's procession and funeral in Washington, D.C. Now, Monaco, a Lance Corporal in the United States Marine Corps, was there when the president's casket arrived and has served on several shifts as an honor guard. Now, the guards have half-hour shifts, and Monaco did several on Tuesday and again yesterday. There are different teams from different branches of service that participate as honor guards. Now, Monaco said that he was going to Utah State University studying history and secondary education when the cost of going to college kept getting more and more expensive, and he instead enlisted into the Marine Corps. Monaco first went to Camp Pendleton near San Diego and graduated from the School of Infantry. He said this has been one of the proudest moments of his life. And WebAIM, which stands for Web Accessibility in Mind, is a nonprofit organization based at Utah State University dedicated to expanding the potential of the Internet for people with disabilities. Now, this year, WebAIM is celebrating 25 years of improving web accessibility. Now, the current WebAIM director, Jared Smith, has been with the organization 24 of its last 25 years. Cindy Rowland, meanwhile, who is the founder, said she first understood the need for accessibility while attending a national conference back in 1990 dealing with developmental disabilities. Well, clear skies through the rest of the afternoon as we've been in the mid-30s today, but it's going to be cold tonight as we're going to hit temperatures down around 10 for our low overnight, with these clear skies continuing. Tomorrow, increasing clouds as temperatures will be back into the low 30s. And then a chance of snow beginning Friday night, continuing into Saturday, could bring about an inch of snow to the valley, with more expected in the mountains. I'm Will Feelwright with your KVNU News Update.
ABC News, I'm Richard Cantu. It appears former President Trump will be sentenced Friday, tomorrow, on 34 felony counts in the hush money business fraud case. A divided Supreme Court, on a 5-4 vote, rejected Trump's bid to delay the sentencing. Former President Carter's remains are back in Plains, Georgia for burial. Earlier, a state funeral in Washington, D.C. President Biden eulogizing.
Jimmy Carter's friendship taught me, and through his life taught me, the strength of character.
Character figuring prominently in the president's eulogy.
Throughout his life, he showed us what it means to be a practitioner of good works and a good and faithful servant of God and of the people.
Later, Mr. Biden announced that the federal government will cover 100% of wildfire-related costs in Southern California for 6 months. This is ABC News.
Disasters don't wait for a convenient time. When the unexpected strikes, call the trusted team at Blue Sky. Remember, Blue Sky is that same great ARS team you know and trust.
This is Tom with Blue Sky Restoration. When disaster strikes, whether it's a flood, fire, mold damage, or an unforeseen accident, Blue Sky will clean up, repair, and restore your home or business like it was before. No disaster is too big or too small. For all your restoration needs, you can trust our Blue Sky team.
The Murdoch Auto Team is celebrating 100 years of winter journeys at Murdoch GMC Chevrolet Cadillac, and we want to be a part of your next adventure. Right now, receive 0% for 60 months plus $5,000 off a 2025 Hummer EV. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family at Murdoch Chevrolet GMC Cadillac in Logan or online at murdochchevroletlogan.com. GMC, we are professional grade.
Call 888-391-6083 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 1/31/25.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute? When you help care for a loved one,
You give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you. You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the Getaway Guru. Join me on The Travel Show every Saturday at 11 a.m., and I'll tell you where to go and how to get there with the best travel deals on the planet, including how to travel more and pay less, free this and free that promotions, and insider secrets on what the airlines, cruise lines, and hotels don't want you to know, along with your call-in travel questions. Every Saturday, 11 a.m., right here on News Talk 610 KVNU.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Thanks again to Jamie Andrus, Cash Chamber of Commerce CEO and President. Always fun to talk with them. As we discussed, to take advantage of their resources and what they offer for businesses large and small, whether it's just you and a couple of employees, you and 50 employees, you and 150 employees. The Chamber has something that will make life better, that will make business better, that will make being in business more fun, more productive, answer questions. Most of it's free, and again, you don't even have to be a member, but there are a lot of benefits to being a member, and so please check them out, cashchamber.com. A lot of people assume that chambers of commerce are run by the county, because they always have the county's name in it, like the Box Elder Chamber or the Cache County Chamber. But these are, private organizations. They depend on supportive membership to be able to do the stuff that they do. And it's really, really, I've said it a million times, if I hadn't been able to get a couple of really important questions answered through some of the resources that folks at the Chamber were able to connect me with, a decade and a half ago, more than that ago, I probably wouldn't still be running my own business. It's that overwhelming in your first year. And it's an amazing resource. So happy to spotlight it here on the show. Speaking of spotlights, I've really been having a week because I promoted this. I said we were going to do it on Tuesday. And then we came back from one of the breaks and I talked about something else. I have no idea why that happened, but I wanted everybody to have a chance to hear it. So on Tuesdays here on the show, our listeners get a sneak peek of Sutherland Institute's Defending Ideas episode each week. They took some time off for the holidays, so we haven't had an episode to give you a sneak preview of since late November, but they're back, and this one was a special one because they were actually talking with Alex Rutter, the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, a community and economic development director. And they were talking about some policy that's going to be debated during the legislative session that regards our safety net and the question that is always out there, when are you supplying help and assistance, which is important, and when are you disincentivizing people from going back to work or finding work? No one knows the answer to that. And anyone that pretends they do just read something on the internet and called it truth. Because it's different in every situation, every individual, every safety net program you're talking about, and every specific situation that those in need of assistance might be in. But it requires constant vigilance to make sure that you're helping and not hurting. So that was the topic of conversation. And like I say, I set it up. I said we were going to do it, that our listeners got a sneak preview. All the things I normally say. We went to break. And then when we came back, I talked about something else, and we never played the clip. I have no idea why this happened. I wish I could explain it. Just having a week. So there's still time to do it, luckily. So we're going to get to this now. This is a controversial discussion because folks on the left, anytime the conversation gears towards, well, maybe the assistants could end up hurting at a certain point, they get defensive. And I understand why. Because sometimes the idea of providing assistance itself is dismissed by those who disagree with them. Folks on the right, they get defensive and prickly anytime you talk about the fact that underfunding safety net programs is also quite unproductive. Safety net programs are meant to catch someone when they fall and stop them from hitting the bottom. That's why it's called a safety net. The idea behind it is you stop them from hitting the bottom so that they can get back up on their feet, crawl out of the safety net, and go back to their lives. It works in 99% of the time, despite what you might read on Twitter, despite some of the almost urban legend style stories that have been told about everything from welfare to assistance with childcare here in Utah. These programs are effective. Could they be more effective? Always. Any program can, private or public. But they do help. That said, I also agree with those on the right who say at a certain point, assistance could become problematic in its own way, disincentivizing people from going back to work. And that's true. It has happened. So I think we're all adult enough. We should be able to think about these things and acknowledge that safety net programs are necessary. And anyone that thinks they're not also probably believes they'll never be in need. And you might be surprised one day in your life. But also, it can't be just a gigantic, endless funding stream without any looks under the hood to see if things are working as efficiently and effectively as possible. That was basically what Sutherland Institute's Nick Dunn and the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta's Alex Reuter sat down and discussed this week on this week's episode of Sutherland Institute's Defending Ideas.
Incentives that might be present or at least perceived to be present in the social safety net. Can you just kind of give a quick refresher when we use terms like benefit cliffs or benefit plateaus or work disincentives? How do you define it? How do you all define it at the Atlanta Fed? Just to give us kind of a baseline of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, we define it we define it in a few different ways, really, and we have a different definition for all those terms you mentioned, really. Benefits cliffs, we refer very specifically, just so everyone knows, is that a benefit cliff is when a worker advances, takes a higher paying job, goes through job training, moves into a higher paying job, works more hours, and is financially worse off than they were before. It's a loss. You are worse off. Like, that's a benefits cliff. So we take that visual metaphor very seriously. The benefits plateau is a very important concept for us. And the benefits plateau, basically what that means is that when that worker works more hours, they go to job training, they get a new job, they're earning more money, they're just about as well off as they were before the raise or before the hours increase. So that plateau metaphor is meant to capture that they're really kind of running in place. They're not gaining, they're not advancing their standard of living, even though their earnings is going up. So the cliff and the plateau, related concepts, but different. The works disincentives, of course, will refer to any type of disincentive effect that would discourage someone from working more. In the case of public assistance, we would usually say that the disincentive effect, the work disincentive, is that as the financial benefit to working more goes down due to benefits loss, alternatives end up looking more appealing, right? So that extra hour you would have been at work, if the financial gain just doesn't make a lot of sense for you, suddenly alternative uses of your time, taking care of your kids, for example, become more appealing.
Alex, one of the terms that I've heard a lot on this issue, and our listeners and viewers may come across this if they're following this issue, but is the term effective marginal tax rate, which I'll be honest, when talking to normal folks, I kind of hate that term because it's very wonky. It's very much a sort of an academic economics term. Our friends at the Georgia Center for Opportunity, who we partner with closely on this issue, some of their folks have started using the term earnings loss rate. And I want to acknowledge that there's different ways to describe this, and thank you for giving that kind of summary of some of the definitions. I want to center for a minute on just use the term a disincentive effect. And the way I would articulate it, and I want to see if this kind of jives with how you and you all at the Atlanta Fed sort of pursue this issue, is at the core of this issue is this principle that if I work harder and I earn more, my family should be better off. And if that doesn't happen, if that's not true, or if at the very least, if I don't perceive that to be true, that's a big problem, and that's what we're trying to fix. Is that a fair way to kind of try and boil all these terms down into a basic principle?
It is, yeah. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. You could also say that if I work more, I'd like to be as well off as I was planning to be. Right? I made an investment in schooling. I took time away from family, my other job, to go to school, to upskill, to get this new job. I might have had a very specific idea of what my standard of living would look like in this new job. I would like that standard of living to match, in reality, what was in my plans. Right? And I think this idea of benefits loss can affect that as well.
I think that's a great way to put it. Again, whenever we can put it into personal terms, another way I would articulate it is that in my own life, and I'm married, my wife and I, we have 2 little boys. And so as a dad, if I believed that working harder and earning more didn't actually make my family better off, or even made my family worse off, at the very least, my effort, my additional earned income, if it seemed like it didn't really make a difference for my boys, I don't know how to deal with that. That'd be really, really tough. And again, just different ways of getting at the core principle of we want people to feel incentivized to pursue work and opportunity to, again, make their families better off and move up the economic ladder and move towards self-sufficiency based on work. And again, you all at the Atlanta Fed have done a tremendous amount of work on this issue for many, many years. You've articulated yourself the years you've been involved in this. Can you tell our listeners, I guess one general question, why is the Atlanta Fed engaged on this issue at all? And what are some of the things that you all bring to the table, whether research or tools? Kind of give us an overview of, well, here's what we have been doing, why we do it, and what we hope to offer to help advance this issue forward.
Yeah, of course. The Atlanta Fed has for a long time focused on workforce development as one of its focus areas. And the way we got into benefits cliffs was strictly through this workforce development lens. So about 6 years ago, we were studying career pathways in workforce development. And the reason why we were studying career pathways in workforce development is they are a clear and well understood engine of economic mobility. Right? You'd start at an entry-level job in a career ladder within an industry, healthcare, IT, manufacturing. And the idea is you can gradually upskill, move up to higher paying jobs, and increase your economic mobility that way. This is a pretty standard, well understood idea. And what we started to ask is, well, you can look at evaluations of workforce programs, and see how effective they were. Some were successful. Some had less successful results. But one thing you do notice is that in workforce development programs, a lot of people are on public benefits that participate in these programs. So we just asked from a very research-oriented perspective, once you account for these public assistance benefits losses, what is the actual financial incentive to go up a career pathway? And we asked that question. We looked at common career pathways, and we could find situations very easily where moving up the career ladder as specified for workforce development programs did not make financial sense. Right? That's how we got into this topic area, because of course the idea of benefits cliffs has been around for a long time. Where we have always tried to articulate our contribution is understanding benefits cliffs as a workforce development problem. So that's how we started. Very quickly after we kind of published this paper documenting how benefits cliffs affect career pathways, we decided and we realized there was a need for tools to explain this problem to stakeholders. We had the capacity to build tools and further research. That's what we did. We started to pilot those tools to understand how they can be used in practice, and that's what led us to where we are today.
Alex, one of the things that occurs to me is I love actually how you sort of blend together that this is a workforce development issue, and that's one way to describe it that I think is powerful, because the way I would view that these safety net programs, these public assistance programs, the sort of the broad mission of we as members of this society, of this country, should be that if we're going to have a social safety net, it should exist to help people feel more stable if they're in a tough spot, if they're down on their luck, they're struggling, they're trying to get out of poverty or out of some economic instability. That these programs are there, again, as a safety net to help provide some stabilization, while simultaneously moving them towards work-based self-reliance. That it's a workforce development tool that, again, we want folks to be able to be self-reliant, and that's by and large what they want as well. And a lot of the research we've done here at Sutherland Institute about this issue, the parents we've talked to who are on these programs, they would rather not be. They would rather be earning enough to be self-reliant. So one, I like that blending of this is a workforce issue. We want to help people sort of have a clear path to engage more fully in the workforce. And I wonder if you can articulate for our listeners, when we talk about the social safety net, I think there is ample evidence that it has helped many, many people over the years, again, provide some stabilization as they kind of move back towards self-reliance through work. But how would you describe the nature and scope of the problem? Again, whether we use the term benefit cliff or plateau, or I like sort of the disincentive effect in general. If you were describing to somebody who wasn't really familiar with this problem, and you had to convey to them the nature of it, the scope of it, kind of the magnitude of how serious of an issue is this, through the workforce lens, through the families we're trying to help, what's the most concise way to describe it to someone who maybe is not deep in the issue?
There's a couple ways to articulate the nature of the problem. One way is to look at the population, right, and just ask, for everyone that's on public assistance, if you give them $1,000 or $2,000 or $10,000, how much of that do they lose, right? And how does that compare to the population overall? Let's just call that the population-based approach. I like that because I find stakeholders really often want to know that. They might say, within my state or within my county even, how many people are facing this issue?
That was, again, a discussion with Sutherland Institute's Nick Dunn, sitting down with Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta's Alex Reuter. Alex, the Community and Economic Development Director at Atlanta Fed, and a really cool conversation there. Getting it. Now, obviously, Alex's perspective is just one perspective of multiple that have to be considered when you're setting up public policy in the safety net world, but that's one that you don't often hear from. So outside of the partisan rhetoric of the political parties, kind of refreshing to hear it expressed in different terms that way. So expect this issue to be heavily debated throughout the legislative session, as it is every year and always will be in the legislative session that kicks off in just a matter of days. Yay, right? Maybe. We'll see. We'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
Get your furnace fixed. Call Gary Riggs. Get your furnace fixed. Call Gary Riggs. If you're having heating trouble and you need your furnace fixed, just pick up the phone and call Gary Riggs. 435-512-6633. We'll come to you. Our service fee is low, just $25. We repair all brands and have certified installers. Get your furnace fixed. Call Gary Riggs. Get your furnace fixed. Call Gary Riggs.
Yeah, military life can have its challenges, but sometimes veteran life brings more. While serving in Iraq, an IED took both my legs, but it didn't take my spirit.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
My name is Greg Gadsden, 26-year Army veteran.
With the right support, more veterans can reach victories, great and small.
DAV helps veterans like me get all the benefits they've earned, and that can be a life changer.
DAV provides a lifetime of support to veterans of every generation, helping more than 1 million veterans each year.
Today, I'm an entrepreneur, photographer, and public speaker.
But there's more to be done and more victories to be won. With the right support, there are no limits.
My victory is just being the best that I can be.
Greg Gadsden, thank you for your service. May your victories inspire many more. Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
Over 50? You can still register as an organ and tissue donor.
Call 1-866-99-DONATE. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
25 NCAA championships, 18 conference championships,
and the Aggies are going dancing.
10 tournament championships.
The Aggies are pulling out the scissors, and they're going to cut down the nest.
Our winning culture continues. Our Utah State Aggies play here on the Aggie Sports Network.
Pre-game begins 1 hour before tip-off. Don't miss game day on your home of the Aggies. News Talk KVNU.
Wrapping up today's show with some big news here in northern Utah. Welcome news, too, for the Brigham City, Box Elder County area. Nucor Corporation announced plans to build a $200 million facility, a utility. This will be for structures production, they call it, and it will be in Brigham City. This will be the third facility of Nucor's, and this is the company's Towers and Structures business unit. So they do multiple things, but this is in that Towers and Structures realm. And it's estimated that this will be about 200 brand new jobs for Brigham City. So I talked about it earlier this week, but the Box Elder County area is growing. That is happening fast, too, but this is going to help. This is part of the Inland Port project and bringing more attention and opportunity to the area. And the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity also gave the thumbs up to the project. So Nucor Steel's Leon Topalian, Nucor's chair, president, and CEO, said, we've already had a strong presence in the West throughout the history of this company, and the new facility positions us to keep that a thing as we meet the country's infrastructure needs. So 200 jobs in Brigham City.